Or you've just gone past your first year in the L&D space?
Yeah, so I got out of the army in February 23, and I started fully in L&D in April of that year. I started with the fire service as L&D advisor. Just did 5 months with them, and then I got offered another opportunity to move across to a company called Firmus Energy and start in a new role with them as their L&D lead. So they hadn't had an L&D lead before. So for me, coming into the industry and I like to kind of build things up from the ground as well. So it was great to kind of get that opportunity to be given that position. And now kind of 7 months, nearly 8 months in, we're starting to see the kind of early fruit fall off the tree with kind of some of the projects and initiatives that we're kind of doing already, and then kind of going into the rest of the year. Bigger things.
What were some of those early things you did and sort of the quick wins that helped you get the ball rolling when you joined Firmus?
A really quick win, and it probably sounds stupid to a lot of people, and it was a bit of a running joke in the business. People wanted to enhance their Excel training. So but we're only a firm of 120, you see. It's quite a traditional company, and they've not had L&D before. So that was a quick win, and already we've got about 40 people through the business within like 6 months, and now with their Excel, and that was a quick win. And then kind of going forward now, kind of looking at building out kind of some of the career pathways and kind of growing that. And we've also partnered up with Ulster University there, going live on a scholarship which completed this week, so the student will be joining us from the summer for renewable energy engineering scholarship. So that, again, that's a first for the company as well. So yeah.
It sounds exciting. I mean, this is the benefit of going into like say a company that's not had anything before. You kind of have that clean slate. And did you find, because maybe they hadn't had it before, people were really interested and invested in like what you're doing and what you could bring to the table?
Yeah, no, 100%. What we've done for the first kind of 2 months was I kind of one-to-one every manager and director and kind of put the sales table out pretty much to kind of reassure them that I was there to help the business. As much as I kind of sit within HR, I'm a single component of L&D, and I was kind of there to kind of back everyone's corner. I wasn't there to kind of push stuff down, and it was all about collaboration going forward. And to be fair and honest, a lot of that from the off, people brought into it straight away, because it was a refreshing thing for them to have. It was an area early on in COVID that they identified that they needed to bring in, going forwards with the business. So from the kind of top down, everyone was involved.
I know a lot of people, when they join a new company, they do find it hard to make sure they're hearing about people's problems, they're getting by, and they're building relationships. So, I mean, is there anything you learn about that process that will help others make sure they learn what they need to learn when they do sit down and speak to people and try and understand their problems?
Yeah, I think it's just being honest and upfront with people straight away, and not everything either needs a solution straight away, or it needs the interaction of an L&D kind of component. Sometimes it's just a conversation with the managers at a lower level, and being given that opportunity to maybe go and develop in a different skill for a day, or go to a seminar, whatever it is. It's just being open with what they want. I think from what I'm kind of learning in the industry so far, people do get nervous when people tend to want to develop, because then they become a flight risk. I don't think that, from what I kind of are seeing, I don't think that's the case. I think if you don't develop, people will then become the flight risks. I know that's probably a big kind of factor. But yeah, I think being honest with people straight away, and what's achievable in the time frames and the budget. That's another thing that, especially with certain companies, we haven't all got these multi-million-pound budgets to kind of burn on L&D, and you want to be making sure that you are getting value for your money. You're not just doing stuff for the sake of being seen to do it. I think it's very kind of, and that's another lesson that I've kind of learned as well, kind of moving into the sector. There's a lot of shiny stuff, but not everyone needs every bit of shiny stuff. We all need a little bit of it, but it doesn't fit everyone. And I think it's having that kind of person in the business to say, actually, that's not for us, but maybe this is. And I think that's what I've been trying to do with my guys and girls so far, and it seems to work, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's that ruthless prioritization, especially like you say, you've got a small budget, there's key things you need to work on. You cannot just steam in and spend money on something you don't need. So, I mean, I guess did that stem from you actually really working out what the problems that needed to be solved were, and then just really following that steady step of, right, what's the thing that actually solves that problem?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what I kind of spend a lot of my day or week doing, is linking in with the managers and the teams and working on kind of, a topic of the month, so to speak. What is the kind of your key issue at the moment, and how can we look to kind of, change that going forwards. Not everything needs to be done today. And I think that's a lesson I've learned in myself coming from my previous career in the army. I'm always used to working in a very high tempo kind of environment, and it's kind of realizing that businesses and kind of civilians, as I kind of have come to know them, don't kind of work to that tempo. Whereas I will just kind of bite my teeth at something and keep going until it's done. And that's the kind of skill that I've had to develop, trying to go forward from, which I'm kind of 6 months in. Yeah, I'm starting to get there with that one.
I love hearing when people have worked in a different industry before, like what that transferable skill has been, or what that like one thing that they thought, this from my previous career won't apply to this. But, are there any skills from the army or things you've really been able to take into the L&D space and see work for you?
Yeah, so kind of the L&D space has always been there in the army with a lot of the stuff I've done. I've always been in sign with like teaching, instructional kind of building courses out, evaluation, all the kind of stuff that kind of, stems from L&D. And I've just kind of taken that now and kind of topped it off with kind of learning about the real world and how it's done outside of the army. Because like I said, it is done to a different kind of tempo, but there is so many kind of skills that transfer across from the army, especially with, time management, team leadership, coaching and mentoring is a big thing, especially with kind of the lower levels, kind of entry roles of the business, and especially we're working with students and stuff. It's been nice to kind of mentor and coach people through their kind of own development plans and stuff as well. So there's so much that's transferred across.
One thing, I was speaking to someone recently and they were talking about how they've set levels across their company. So like if you're in an entry level position in this company, these are the sort of character traits and skills you need to have. And it goes up through the levels of their company. And actually, I'd imagine that the army has prepared you to really come in and do that within like a more corporate or office type setting.
Yeah, no, definitely. And this is what I try to explain to people when they come to me for kind of learning and development kind of opportunities. You might want to do it, but it's kind of it's explaining to them about the business needs on top of their own needs. And when it comes to funding, not every role requires everyone to be potentially sat at the chartered or master's level, but that's not to say that we won't develop in them. What I always, I said it from the top down, from the CEO downwards, I've tiered it into kind of two kind of streams with L&D. It's the kind of skills that I think everyone should have. So kind of, active listening, IT skills, all that kind of stuff. And then the second tier of that is, depending on what department you're in, then that's your kind of box to put your skills in, and that's what we're focused on as well. So, and it's making sure that we're fair across the business with the opportunities.
Yeah, I had a eerily similar conversation recently, and someone was saying that, it was about classifying what are the soft or power skills that everyone needs to have. So culturally, we're doing the right things. And then also, what are the technical skills you need to have for your role? And once you can build, I suppose working on them as two separate streams allows you to be specific. But once you can build on those two components, you are doing a lot to enable people to perform.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of the thing that we're starting to see now, is the stuff that we're starting to give people. We can see the impacts and the confidence it's given them. As much as I said before, like the Excel training, people are now wanting to advance their IT skills further. We've had people go through project management, leadership management, coaching and mentoring, even the kind of boring side of it, like how to write policies and policy implement. They've never had it before. So, and it's just refreshing people and showing them that learning doesn't mean you have to go and sit on a course for 3 days. It could just be an hour in our kind of breakout room with an external kind of coming in and just bringing us up to speed, at kind of a low kind of cost barrier. We don't have to spend thousands or go on a course for 12 weeks when we can kind of bite-sized chunk it for when we need it. And I think that really works for our business, is because we're so, we're only 120 and there's only me. If I'm going to everyone every day, L&D, people will tune out. And that's one thing I'm very, very cautious about, is once you start to lose people, it's very hard to then bring it back up. But we're going forward with kind of more initiatives with Learning at Work Week coming up in May, and kind of some more kind of overhauling performance management and the way we do things like that. So it's going to be, it's exciting.
It sounds like context was a good lesson from, well, both sides actually. It sounds like, when you're in the army, the development of people there was very contextual, and then it sounds like you're doing the same thing here. You're really working out what's the context of the business before I try and do too much. So, I mean, any advice for people who are trying to do a more context-driven approach, but maybe haven't quite figured out exactly what the context of their business is?
Yeah, I think for me, when I went into the business, I was acutely aware kind of I needed to give myself time to understand the business and not just go on day one with kind of my old soldier head on, going, this is what we're doing, get your notebooks out, write down these dates, you're on this course, you're on that course, this is what's happening. I was very, very aware of coming across like that, because traditionally when people say, ex-army, they all expect kind of what they see outside Buckingham Palace, kind of marching around shouting at people. So I took that time, and I would always advise people to take that time. You're still in your kind of early days in the business anyway. No one's expecting you to outperform kind of 5-star everything on the first week. It's just giving yourself that time to breathe and understanding, because you could very easily kind of lead people in the wrong direction without that kind of context there, which is, and
like once you lose them, it's hard to get them back. Maybe one final question: is there anything that really surprised you in a good or bad ways, like coming into that more official L&D space from your previous role?
Yeah, it's just how big and expanding the industry is. Traditionally for me, kind of, I've always looked at L&D in the Army's kind of perspective. It's very kind of structured and very flat in kind of the idea club, because we was obviously achieving certain stuff. But kind of, I think it's a very exciting time from what I've kind of learned in the last year and all the kind of stuff I'm following and bits and pieces I've done. I think it's only going to get bigger as a need for the business. And even kind of coming from Northern Ireland, we're quite a small kind of country. And even within Northern Ireland now, there is a bit of an undercurrent kind of growing within the L&D space of actually, yes, we companies do need this, regardless of what size they are, because it's all going towards kind of the future and skills, and people need to continuously keep on top of that. Otherwise, you can't just kind of keep going with your GCSE French that you done like 20 years ago. It's not going to come in handy in the next 20 years. So it's just kind of keeping on top of things in that sense for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for chatting to me. I really enjoyed it.